I got 1,665 words of notes.
Nice.
So I did a nice job on these.
Cool. Hello and welcome to Volume 2 of this month's Wrestling 20 Years Ago for ECW and Hardcore Heaven. Volume 1 is WCW. There is no official numbered WWF shows this month. There is a Owen Hart tribute show, and there is a sort of look over of what happened this month on WTV. But obviously, with the Owen Hart tragedy, there is no in full WWF show this month. I am joined today again by Mr. Ryan Swanson. How the devil are we, sir?
The devil is great. I am great. I had an excellent week. I watched a ton of ECW, and that always leads to an excellent week.
You can't go wrong. So before we go into the news, as always, if you support on Patreon for as little as $5 whole US a month, you get all of our bonus shows when we do them, and you get our eternal greatness and thanks, because it just means that it doesn't mean that it costs us anything to do the hosting and get all the newsletters and things like that. So yeah, for that, obviously we give you all of the extra content, and for one solitary dollar a month, you can get early access. So once the shows are recorded and edited, they go on and you get to hear them first. So, Mr. Swanson, give
Yes.
me some news headlines.
Well, Jerry Lynn is the first thing that comes to mind. That Jerry Lynn injury that happened at Hardcore Heaven was something to definitely like take note of. Um, Jerry Lynn basically took a Van Daminator off the rope. He was hung up on a hangman, and the ropes hit a Van Daminator, and Jerry Lynn just fell face first to the mat. That's the first thing I think of. Second is Candido and Sunny, or whatever the hell you want to call her. Um, like Sunny just like came off of her LOD 2000 run in WWF, and she's back with Candido. And when I was little, I was probably 10 years old when it first started. Um, when this first event came out, and I had no idea about ECW until about a couple months after, and I was always like, "Where did Sunny go? I liked Sunny." So here she was, and those are the first two things I think of.
So yeah, so obviously with Jerry Lynn, there is some news on that. Obviously taking a heavy fall in the pay-per-view match against RVD, suffered a broken nose. Lynn thought he may have actually crushed his skull. His nose was bleeding, and there was also ear bleeding as well. During the match, Lynn did get asked by the ref if he wanted to go home early, um, but they kept going until halfway through the sort of the remaining time when Lynn just went, "I'm done," and got a finish in quickly. It is reported that Lance Storm was the one that noticed that Lynn's ear was bleeding and did rush him to hospital. As for
I thought that was
Candido,
kind of cool.
yeah, it's one of those of you think about someone as the ultimate heel of you'd expect from Lance Storm. He noticed a subtle thing as the ear bleeding. Went, no, I'm not waiting for the ambulance. I'm going to take you in the car. And obviously on the Candido front, it looks as though he is no longer going to be around in ECW. Candido appeared on an AOL chat the night before the pay-per-view, where he gave away the finish of the match, saying that he was ordered to do a quick job. There are widespread rumours that him and Tammy will be on their way to ECW. It is worth noting that Candido left the arena halfway through the night at the pay-per-view before the RVD Lynn match, and he and Paul Heyman appeared to have an ordeal beforehand and not speak to each other during the show. Also, this month, in people that seem to be on their way, we could be saying goodbye to the franchise. Shane Douglas's relationship with ECW is likely to be coming to an end, and there's talk that he may be going to the Fed. Shane Douglas wasn't at the ECW arena shows this month, Heyman told The Torch, and he was also told not to turn up at the pay-per-view either. His presence is no longer welcome in the locker room, and this isn't about just unpaid financial checks. So, talk of him on his way to the Fed. Do you really think that it's a good idea for Shane to be going off to the WWF with their likelihood of putting him back as Dean Douglas?
Absolutely not. For sure, the Dean Douglas character would not fit in 1990 WWF. If they wanted to bring him in as that character and have him shed the character on TV so they can both have the crowd recognize it and see it change, and they kind of made him like the triple threat, like vicious heel, like I don't think that Vince really liked Shane Douglas. That's like the thing. He always says that he never really felt liked in the WWF locker room, but it was kind of part due to the Click. Like Shane Douglas like really knew what he was doing, and the Click always kind of like stepped in the way of it.
Which is one of the reasons I would be surprised if he ever ends up in WCW, because Nash and Hall are not going to make his life easy.
Exactly. They don't make anybody's. Nothing was easy around those guys.
So it may be noticed on the TV this month that the crowds are down at the ECW arena. From recent history of said having turnaway crowds, they are no longer. In fact, the last few shows, there have still been people being able to get in until all the way through the show. So is ECW's losing their hardcore fan base at the arena clearly is not a good sign that they've gone from turnaway crowds where they've had to extend the bleachers and put more seats in to now being at the point where they're not even getting a full crowd in for a show.
Yeah, that's kind of fascinating to me, honestly. Like, it doesn't really make correlative sense. Like the state of the industry, like WWE was on the boom like crazy. WCW was kind of about to fall. That was due to Goldberg and Nash, in my opinion. The whole stun gun thing and Goldberg losing. That's when I lost interest. And ECW was losing some of its key talent, some due to deaths. They had like financial troubles going on because who knows what Paul Heyman was doing with the money. And so I don't, and there were strong characters in ECW at that time, but a lot of people were leaving. A lot of the originals were either hurt or leaving. Everything was really convoluted. Like for instance, another thing I want to talk about here is this Dawn Marie storyline. It like was the weirdest thing ever. Like she's Beulah now and she's Tammy now. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on at this time, and I don't know a direct link. What do you think that there's like a direct link between the dwindling crowd in Philly because the Queens crowd was coming out?
I don't know whether it's just a case of oversaturation or they've just got to the point where they've seen it all before. It is a hard one to sort of judge because for as much as we say, oh, there's some stuff that the ECW doing is just batshit stupid, you then get
Hmm.
matches like we had at the pay per view with Tajiri and Guido, Super Crazy and Taka, which
Yeah,
better in ring products than anyone else is doing. You've still got RVD and
very
Lynn
awesome.
who are just making amazing matches in history every time they get in the ring together. It's
Yep.
it's not the actual in ring product as a whole is any worse than it has been. I just
Yep.
don't know whether there's something of their guys not being there anymore, the likes of Sandman leaving, likes of Shane being binned off, Bam Bam obviously off, Sabu's not really having as much time as he usually does. I don't know if that's what's taken effect, but it is a strange one. Though last
Convolution, oversaturation, people leaving.
yeah,
Convolution, oversaturation, and people leaving.
yeah.
Three things.
So last bit of news for the month. is there may be money coming in, but is it too late? Heyman obviously is planning to keep ECW in business as long as he possibly can, but without a deal being struck with outside investors, a sponsor, licensing, cable networks, or even a rival promotion, the company simply won't be surviving. ECW are trying to strike a deal with Nashville Network and Acclaim, obviously, for this video game, which is still in development. But there is even talk of a partnership with ECW or with WCW or the WWF in either a part ownership or a full takeover. There is talk of TNN coming in for clearance, which was said to be a done deal a few months ago, which is now believed to be dead. And the Acclaim game, as I said, is looking 50-50 because there is no TV deal at the moment. Rumors this month were that MTV were looking at maybe putting on wrestling and ECW being the choice for that. And the Warner Brother Network are meant to be interested in some sort of show as well. But at this point, is it all a little bit too little, too late?
ECW on MTV would have been absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. And it did not happen.
If it's one of those of obviously with the music and with things like Tick, Beavis and Butthead, it would fit in. The claymation celebrity death match, you put ECW in the middle of that, it would be perfect. So we are going into the TV review for the month. Week one's TV opens up with a awesome match between Jerry Lynn and Taka Michinoku, which Jerry Lynn wins with a cradle power driver. We then get Cyrus speaking to Taz and telling him that Candido being in a halo again. We see Candido come out wearing said halo and says he broke his neck twice. Taz comes out and says he doesn't care about his neck. Chris wants an apology, but Taz says it's his own fault, and out comes Steve Corino. He calls Taz a shame. He tells him to leave the belt and leave the ring. So Taz does what Taz does best, slaps Candido, which takes off the halo, and attacks Corino until Candido attacks him. Taz hits a massive powerbomb and a diving headbutt. We then get a match between Guido and Nova, which Nova wins with a crucifix. And Lance and Tommy Dreamer have a match where Tommy wins with a table Sapicoli driver. Again, another awesome TV match. Post-match, Justin comes out with Beulah and canes the Francine, and Shane comes out to only to get caned. They smash a cinder block on Tommy's dick with a chair. We end the show with the Dudleys out, where Bubba says that he should be the TV champ too, because him and Devon beat RVD to take the tag team titles. And Devon then claims that he should be the champ. We then get RVD coming to the ring as we go off the air. So in week one's TV, was there anything that sort of stood out to you? Obviously, that Taka and Jerry Lynn match was absolutely awesome. And obviously, Lance and Tommy was another really, really good match. Was there anything that stood out for you in that first weeks of TV?
I got a few little points basically about each match, like a little piece of minutia, like for each match. Taz said that New Yorkers don't give respect, and they're in New York, and the crowd popped like crazy. I thought that was pretty interesting. You had a great Taz is gonna kill you chant. That was pretty strong. Carino asked Taz if his people are like from like who are you people? Are you from Crackhead Land or something? And Taz says the only crack is your head when I'm done with you. Thought that was pretty funny. The Guido Nova match was better than I thought it was. I'm starting to learn a little bit more about Nova, and I like him. What else we got? Dreamer had the biggest pop of the show. Um, the Lance Storm versus Dreamer match was just the crowd was super into it. I felt bad for Francine when she was pounding the mat, like "Let's go Tommy, let's go Tommy," but the crowd was like, "Show your tits." So like, I always feel bad for the women on ECW because they were treated like shit.
Yeah, there is a definite level of crowd participation that is all about we want boobs.
And one more thing, the last match was well, like the Dudleys were actually like in the ring like to end it, and I thought it was funny that Bubba said to Devon that like they argued who looks better, like who is a better looking person, and Bubba said, "Yeah, you look better, maybe to a fat white girl," and I was just like, "Wow, they can really just say anything on this show." So it was cool.
Yeah, the Dudleys are easily some of the best talkers in the world at the moment in the ring. And some of the shit they
Yep.
get away with, I do sometimes wonder how they do it. So going into week two's TV, we open up with Cyrus on the beach with Steve Corino. He tells Corino that he was a mastermind about the attack on Taz. We then get Judge Jones interviewing Taz. He says he's going to choke out the judge, then puts him in the trunk of his car, goes to the ring, and hands out a belt shot to the ring hand. We then get a TV title match between Bubba Ray Dudley and RVD. RVD wins with the 5-star frog splash. This is a must-watch TV match. Please go out of your way and watch this. This was awesome. Post-match, the Dudleys beat down RVD until Lynn comes out and makes the save. Chair shots all round because out come Justin and Lance, and they beat down everyone until Sabu comes out and we get a massive brawl. We then get a match between Jerry Lynn and Justin Credible. Lynn wins with the Cradle Pile Driver. Again, the TV matches this month are so worth your time. Post match, Lance beats down Lynn until Tommy comes out to make the save, and Lance beats each other down as we go off the air. So a bit of a shorter amount of things on this week's TV, but let's start with possibly the highlight of the TV month, RVD Bubba Ray. What can you
Yeah, that was
say
a pretty
about
good
this
match.
match?
I love them. I mean, to me, RVD is like other than Dreamer or maybe Sandman, he was the face of the company, and Bubba Ray is probably the best heel, maybe even in wrestling at that time. And them going against each other was like it's good off the cuff. And if the hype is good off the cuff, like before the bell rings, you know you're gonna have a good match. To me, that's like 50% of a good match if it's a match that you want to see. And they really know each other super well, and all the spots you could tell were very. They knew what they were doing, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, and I liked how the match ended with obviously everyone coming down at the end and obviously getting the big brawl, because it makes you remember that Sabu
Of
is about,
course.
obviously there's that whole story that Justin has put in a restraining order, so Sabu cannot wrestle in any American building
Anyway,
where
yeah.
wrestling is happening. Which then led into the Lynn Justin Incredible match again, which was another really awesome match. Um, I am the more I see of the rat face knacker that is just incredible, the more I enjoy him.
I love him. I'm actually friends with the dude, and cause he kind of lives like somewhat nearby me, so I keep in touch with him. I was trying to get him out to the bar last week. I was I was in his town. I'm like, yo, come down to the bar, but he's like, he doesn't really come out of his house. He actually does his podcast a lot, so he's got a really good podcast out too. So he's a cool dude. He's not a bad dude as some people make him out to be. He's really come around.
Awesome. So other than obviously the two awesome matches on this week, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up with the TV?
I love Don Callis like a lot. I think it's a well-known fact by a lot of people that know who I am. I think he brings something to the business that nobody does. The way he speaks all insider and has like a ton of jokes. He's the guy that like somebody who really loves the psychology and the inner workings of the business would love. and the little segment with him and Carino at the beach was something that made me watch the whole show because I wanted to see where him and Carino would go. I love that storyline. Carino at this moment in time is my favorite Carino. I don't like the heel Carino. I like this like sad I want to be Taz Carino, and I just love this incarnation of his character. Taz wore a shirt with the F word on it, and it was blurred, and I thought that was like pretty interesting. I wonder if it was blurred on the original show. I'm gonna assume it was the F word. It was on TV, so um, and I don't think I have anything else. There were some really cool spots in the RVD Bubba match that were nice. Just go watch that match, honestly. So that's really all I got.
So going into week three's TV, we have Candido beating on Chetty the way that Taz did to him, giving him a neck injury until Taz comes out. Taz then beats on Chetty because he even beats up his own family. Justin comes out and tells us that he will shock the wrestling world, and Lance tells us Sabu can never wrestle again in the US, and Justin got rid of the Sandman and Shane, which you'll hear that promo now. We follow that up with a match between Guido and El Mosco. Guido wins with the Sicilian Crab. This was a really fun, high-flying match and shows how much Guido's got in him now that he's away from Tracy and the Big Don, and allowing him to show his chops as a singles wrestler. We then get a tag match between
Awesome.
Taka and Tajiri versus Super Crazy and Nova. Taka wins by pinning Super Crazy after a Michinoku driver. During the match, the FBI take out Nova and he's replaced by Spike Dudley. We then get RVD telling us about what he's going to do for Sabu, which you'll hear now. Tommy then says that he's going to beat Lance and get Beulah. We then get a tag team title match between Balls and Axel and the Dudleys. The Dudleys winning with 3D. So this was the last week going into the pay-per-view. Again, some really, really good high-flying action this one, with a lot of the smaller guys getting some TV time. What were your thoughts on the two cruiserweight matches that we had? Obviously, the tag match and the Super Crazy and El Moco match.
Little Guido is so much fun to watch, isn't he?
He's
He does these things that nobody does.
the thing, as I said with Guido, he's come out of his shell so much since Tracy and Tommy Rich have gone. Now that he's sort of basically a singles guy. Yes, he's got Big Sally with him outside, but he's not sort of carrying him in a match. So you can sort of see the level of amateur wrestler that he is, and he looks so good with it. As I said, he was one of those I've always sort of liked him, even sort of back in early days of the FBI. I thought he's a good wrestler, but it's only in this past sort of couple of weeks since the split up of the original FBI, you can actually see how good he actually is. And I would quite look forward to just putting him in there with a Jerry Lynn, with a RVD, and getting a match between those two out together could be really, really good.
Yeah, he's more well respected in the ECW cast of characters than most people would realize. He's a really interesting like acumen. Like if you like look at his like career like before ECW, he was doing all these sorts of like martial arts and catch wrestling, and he was in Japan. His training is just fantastic. I love his finishing move. It's that like leg drop off the top rope. It's called a Sicilian slice. It's a great name for a move. Another noted about this match, I never knew who El Mosco was, so I looked into it. There was actually a time in 1997 that both him and his dad were working for the WWF at the same time. His dad was Pierre Roth, a guy named Pierre Roth, who was in the 1997 Rumble, and he did some dark matches and shotguns, and so did El Mosco. So I learned about them too. That was pretty cool. I was insanely hyped for the Tajiri and Taka and Super Crazy match because to me, Super Crazy is probably like the most underrated luchador that ever stepped into ECW. His pops every single time were like the fans like loved Super Crazy, and so did I. I remember Tajiri Super Crazy from when I was younger. Like the five wrestlers I remember were like RVD, Sandman, Super Crazy, Tajiri, and Dreamer. Those are like my guys. Um, let's see these the dual moonsaults that Taka and Tajiri did. Did you catch that over the barricade? The outside
Yeah.
moon. That was that was just perfect. Like that could have been on the entry video to the show. Tommy Dreamer's promo. If you're like a promo guy and you're a Tommy Dreamer guy, this is one to watch. His uh his Vindiction, his tone was just like super serious, and he was wearing the coolest shirt that I've ever seen. It's a like South Park combined with wrestling shirt, and I need it. I need that shirt right now. And it was that last match with Dudley's and Balls and Axel is a great ECW type match, especially the finish, tables, chairs, barbed wire, fire. It's got everything.
It's
It's a good
got
show.
everything you'd expect for a Dudley's match with Balls and Axel.
Exactly. Chair swinging freaks. Love
So,
that name.
so that takes us up to Hardcore Heaven and the pay per view for the month. Ryan,
hmm
can you run us through the results?
The Hardcore Heaven results, sure.
Yeah.
All right. So we start out. Styles comes out to welcome us. Sandy and Candido come out. There's some sort of insurance policy that Candido has, and it's the Dudley Boys. There's a lot of like storyline backstage stuff happening, and I wrote that down as well. So the matches come chronologically. So there's a Taz mission. The Dudleys beat up Taz after he puts the Taz
Right.
mission on Candido.
Ryan, we're going to go
Side,
through match to match in a minute. I just need the Taz beat Candido, Dudley's beat Spike
okay,
and
I got you.
Bronson, and then we can go for each match in a minute.
Okay. The Dudleys and Balls and Spike is the kind of half. It's kind of
No,
like that
Ryan.
impromptu match thing that happens, right? You have Taka versus Super Crazy. Super Crazy wins with a sit out power bomb. Uh, Guido versus Tajiri. Um, and then you have who won the Guido versus Tajiri match? I actually don't have that. I must have like skipped it.
Guido, Tajiri beat Guido.
Okay, so he beat Guido. Then you have Dreamer versus Storm, and Tommy comes out. Tommy Spicoli drivers. Yeah, there's a Spicoli driver, so I'm assuming Tommy wins that. For some reason, I didn't write the wins in this match, but I remember who wins. Okay, so Tommy versus okay, Tommy wins. Tammy Lynn, you got Tammy Lynn and Dawn Marie, and then you got Dreamer. Where who? I don't understand why the results of this match are so convoluted in my report here. But Jerry Lynn versus RVD was the one that's after that, and it's the match of the month, I would say. And RVD goes over, and that one retains his title. Uh, then you got Lance Storm, and he doesn't know who he's facing, and he's got Psycho Sid, also known as Sid at this time, and Sid, I believe. Is there a finish of this match, or it kind of just has a non-finish? Like,
It goes to a no contest.
yeah, no contest, right? And then you have Bubba and Taz, and Bubba eventually taps out to the Taz mission, which is a great match. You should really check out this Bubba and Taz match, which was excellent. Yeah, I have a lot of like results within this notes that I have, and it's a lot of backstage stuff. So that's the reason why that was like
Okay.
that.
Okay, so we are starting with our main event, or what was meant to be our main event of the evening, going on as the curtain jerker. Taz defeating Candido. Candido comes out and calls out the Dudleys and says that they're his insurance policy. Taz is out, takes them out. both Dudleys, and Taz then hits a full German Tazplex, stomps a head and arm Tazplex to Candido. Candido manages to hit a power bomb, misses the follow-up diving headbutt. Taz hits the T-bone Tazplex, locks in the Taz mission, and we are done. There's not really much to say about this match. It was short, it was sweet, it was just over a minute, and coming out of what we know that they're getting rid of Candido, it seems that that was an ultimate burial.
Yeah, it really was. It didn't even like feel like a match. It felt like a promo that just ended in people saying goodbye to Candido.
So, post-match, the Dudleys come in and hit a brutal 3D onto Taz. And at this point, Cyrus joins the commentary team. Bubba grabs the mic and tells us all that they are the best tag team in the world, calls out anyone with balls enough, which obviously brings out Balls and Axel. Or we expect Balls and Axel to get Balls and Spike. So Balls comes in and starts punching on both of the Dudleys. A super kick from Devon and an eye poke to Bubba. A slam, he goes up top, hits an elbow drop and gets a 2. Devon with some punches till Balls hits a belly to belly. Goes up top but is stopped by the Dudleys who slam him off, which brings out Spike. Spike blindsides them with a couple of nut shots and hits an acid drop on Bubba. And Balls hits the Nutcracker Suite on Devon and they get a combined 2 count. Spike is backdropped onto Sign Guy. He is then lobbed onto the Dudleys, who then throw him back to Balls and then back again. And at this point, he gets side slammed to the outside. Balls hits a double clothesline, punches to Devon. Devon hits some punches and they go outside. Bubba beats on Spike, Samoan drops him and then goes and gets a table. Spike with a quick roll-up gets a 2. Spike is then placed on the table. Bubba goes to the second rope, jumps off, and gets a nut shot. He then goes for the Hurricane Rana, but Bubba hits a massive top rope powerbomb through the table, which only gets a 2 count. Balls breaks it up. Devon hits the inverted DDT onto Balls. They hit a 3D on Spike. Balls is then in with a chair and massive fucking chair shots to both of them. Sign Guy and Gertner gets in, and Gertner hits his wonderful chair tap. Then throws a bunch of matches at Balls. Yes, he has a box of matches, lights them up, and tosses them at him, thinking that's going to work. Balls ups the ante by chugging a bottle of lighter fluid and spitting fire at Gertner. The Dudleys turn around and hit it with a 3D to get the win. This was the fun brawl that you expect and wanted, and I love Gertner. His tiny little chair taps and the throwing of the matches was just so funny.
How about that dance he does?
Yes, it's all about the little sort of flapping of arms. I'm just like, yes, we like this. It's good to see that we are getting a bit more for Spike. He is definitely one that gets lobbed around so much and takes such a beating, yet can always come back for more and more, which is always good. But this was what we'd expect from this type of match. You can't really complain.
Can you imagine anybody drinking lighter fluid in the WWF?
No one's doing that in the Fed. And there's something that happens at the end of the month which would never happen in the Fed, but we'll go over that later. Our next match sees Super Crazy going against Taka Michinoku. Super Crazy opens up with a quick drop kick, but Taka then hits a springboard drop kick of his own, a shoulder block and elbow drop, but he misses the following drop kick. Super Crazy hits an arm drag and a swinging DDT, goes for the springboard, but Taka hits him with a forearm, which knocks him to the floor. A quick snapmare drop kick and some head kicks, followed by a chops. Super Crazy puts in a sleeper. Taka gets out of that with a side Russian leg sweep. Taka hits chops on a tornado DDT, goes for a second one, but Super Crazy turns it into a spinebuster. Taka then up top and hits a springboard Hurricane Rana for the 2. Super Crazy rolls through, gets a 2 of his own. Taka then backdrops him onto the floor, but misses the tope. Super Crazy hits a baseball slide, then a springboard moonsault into the crowd. Back into the ring, gets the 2 count. A couple of dragon whips and some leg kicks. Taka then misses the first, but hits the second enziguri. A slam, but he misses the follow-up moonsault. Super Crazy hits the wonderfully awesome triple moonsaults, but only gets a 2. Super Crazy then off the top rope gets drop kicked by Taka as he's on his way down. Taka then hits the Michinoku Driver, only gets a 2. Super Crazy hits a hench snap DDT, a falling powerbomb with a sit out for the win. Is there anything that these two cannot do? That
Nope.
is just some amazing high flying wrestling, and I fucking love that triple moonsault spot.
Knew it was going to be good since the bell rang. Yep.
Yeah,
middle rope, top rope.
That's just a figure of beauty.
Yep. It's iconic. It's something that people forget about Super Crazy.
But yeah, as you were saying, you sort of knew that it was going to be great when it started.
Yep.
It's
Super Crazy is just awesome. I could watch him all day.
Yeah, it's one of those of he is massively underrated. Part of me would quite like to see him go to WCW and get in there with a Mysterio or a Guerrero or a Malenko or something like that, and have those sort of matches. But the part of me that obviously, because I do always just watch ECW, would miss him not being there when he would go over there, and yes, he'd be having wonderful matches in WCW. But my own personal greed wants to keep him here in ECW. I like Taka is getting some decent ring time here as well in this what seems to be a loan deal with him turning up, because obviously he still comes out in his WWF robe. Obviously he hasn't left the Fed. He's got a talent trade. I'm hoping that the fact of the caliber of work that he's doing down in ECW will mean that if he does go back to the Fed, they'll actually use him. Because the light heavyweight title has become a joke with Gilbert being the champion.
He gets a win over Triple H a few months later.
So, yeah, that's one of those of I'm hoping that they do follow that up. Post-match, we see Gertner backstage on the floor, obviously suffering from being burnt. The Dudleys see a note, which they find out is his hit list, and the first person on that is Nova. And they go and jump him and beat him down. We then get the match between Tajiri and Little Guido. Tajiri opens up with kicks. Guido hits a single leg, gets him onto the floor with some slaps. Tajiri reverses it and into a sleeper. We then get a rolling leg whip and some more kicks. Tajiri goes for a powerbomb, but it's reversed. And Guido hits some more slaps, stomps, armbar, and then hits a top rope dropkick. And goes for a tope, but Tajiri blocks. Top rope splash from Tajiri onto Guido and Sal. Tajiri then suplexes him onto the railing and hits a post smash. Back into the ring, he puts on the tarantula. Guido hits some kicks. Tajiri catches him on a springboard and turns it into a toss onto the ramp. Guido then drop toe holds him on the ramp and hits a springboard Fame Master on the ramp. He rolls him back into the ring to get a 2 count. A springboard splash gets a 2 and hits some chops. Tajiri gets some time and goes to hit a back crossbody, but misses as Guido turns it into an armbar. Big Sally comes in, hits a massive power slam, Guido jumps on the pin, but only gets a 2. Guido puts on the Kimura. Sally then back in, smashing Tajiri into the railings on the outside. Guido hits a knee drop, and we get a chop battle. Guido hits a leg drop, gets a 2 count. Tajiri then hits a head kick. Guido power bombs for a 2. Guido with a low drop kick to the knees. Guido then goes into a full Nelson into an armbar. Tajiri puts on the octopus spin, which was just amazing looking. Massive slap, puts him into the tree of woe and hits a stiff as fuck basement drop kick. Massive head kick to Sally and hits a crisp brainbuster for the win. Tajiri, he is the great Muta of our generation.
The great mooer, like a cow?
No, Muta, as in the
great Muta, of course.
You know, because obviously I watched a lot of old school WCW back in the 80s, so I have an affiliation for Muta. So yeah, I see a lot of Muta in Tajiri. The only thing he doesn't do is the mist, but
yeah,
his kicks are something that are ridiculous.
Amazing. Like I don't know whether it's the slap that provides the effect or like literally the speed of the kick or how technical he is with it, but he to me, I think he might have like his kick set. It might be my favorite. Like everybody talks about like Daniel Bryan's kicks or whatever, but go look at Tajiri's like kick set. It's spectacular. It's unbelievable.
And every single one of them always look like they hurt.
Yeah.
And this was the match that, watching Guido, I was just like, he puts in so much work on that amateur style working holes into arm bars and takedowns and stuff, and he's just so good in this match.
He can turn anything into an armbar or a pin. It's fascinating. I never like that always amazes me, like how people can go from one spot to the next in a variety of ways. And Guido is top 10 at that.
So we follow that up with the Dudleys backstage beating on Ron Price as he was the next name on the list. We then get Lance versus Tommy. As they're coming out to the ring, we can see this is going to be a hardcore brawl as there is a ladder set up, chairs and bins in the ring already. As Tommy's coming out, Lance jumps him and they brawl on the ramp to start. Tommy then smashes him into the railings and then into the ring. Lance goes for a sunset flip, only for Tommy to smash a bin lid on his head. We get the Cactus Jack clothesline, and Tommy grabs a water bottle from a fan and smashes it on his head. Lance hits a reverse DDT onto the ramp, back elbows, and Tommy goes for the DDT on a chair, but it's blocked by Lance, who gets a 2 count. Lance then wedges a chair into the corner. Lance is whipped into the chair. He then smashes Tommy's head into said chair and hits a super kick for a 2. Lance gets a table and they brawl on the outside. Tommy crotches Lance onto the ring post and grabs some of the railing and puts that into the ring. Lance hits an atomic drop onto the railing onto Tommy in the ring, but misses a top rope splash and hits the railings himself. Tommy then gets rocket launched into a chair. Lance hits some stomps. He tries to hip toss Tommy through the table on the outside, but Tommy blocks it, backdrops him through the table himself. Back into the ring, Lance hits a sick chair shot. Grant takes off his belt and starts to belt him with it. Tommy hits a stunner onto a chair, which gets a 2 count. Tommy then grabs a ladder and gets it hit with it as the bin lid comes in. Storm then tries to baseball slide the ladder into Tommy, but Tommy dodges it and smashes him with the ladder. Back into the ring, Tommy smashes Lance into the corner whilst wearing the ladder and then chair shots it. During this point, the ref gets hit as Lance falls over. Tommy goes up top but misses the splash onto the ladder. Lance gets another table and puts Tommy on top of it, goes up top. Tommy blocks it and hits a top rope Spicoli driver through the table. At this point, Cyrus makes his way into the ring. Francine spears him and goes the Bronco Buster. Bueller comes in and we get our obligatory cat fight. Tommy then piles drives Bueller. Lance hits a sick bin shot, puts the bin on Tommy's head, goes up top and hits a spinning heel kick and gets the win. We will discuss the Bueller Francine bit in a minute, but this was a decent hardcore match that didn't go to a we need to walk around the whole of the arena to prove that we're having a brawl. I really quite liked it, and I liked the fact that Lance came out in jeans and a vest top, proving that he's not in his wrestling gear. This isn't a normal wrestling match. This is a fight.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool look for Lance Storm. Lance Storm looks different in 1999 than he does in every other year. I think the juice wore off as he left, and the juice wasn't there when he came in. But he looks bigger than usual. Yeah.
Though he said last month he's not on the gas, and he said he could have a piss test.
Yeah,
and
right.
He threw it on Tommy because Tommy's on the gas clearly.
Oh, definitely, 100%.
So we then go backstage again to see the Dudleys have another name on the list, which is Jack Victory. They have a little bit of a moral sort of dilemma here because of Jack Victory's help of them before. But then they open up the envelope and see there's $5,000 in it.
Yep.
They take out Jack Victory.
$5,000.
We then have the Taz telling us that he's going to take out the Dudleys tonight for what they did earlier. We then get the no time limit match between RVD and Jerry Lynn. Lynn starts with working the arm, and we get some change wrestling as they exchange holds. RVD gets a rolling pin for a 2. RVD then hits a headlock and a shoulder block and goes for the leapfrog spot. Both doing them themselves. Lynn tries to hit the leg drop on RVD when he does the drop down, but misses. And RVD hits an elbow drop and a somersault leg drop, but misses. RVD then into the corner with a clean break as he poses into Lynn's face with the RVD. Lynn then does the same, but kicks him. RVD misses a drop kick, which turned into a slingshot, which RVD lands on the corner and jumps up the back elbow. We then get a monkey flip, and Lynn nearly lands on his feet. We notice here that RVD's eyes busted open. RVD with some forearms kicks and a springboard nothing into Lynn, who then backdrops him onto the apron. RVD then gets posted, followed up by a triangle dropkick. Top rope splash, and Lynn back into the ring. Hits a guillotine leg drop and gets a 2. Up top, Lynn hits a bulldog that gets a 2. Fonzie then trips Lynn from the top rope so RVD can hit the Superman Dominator. And we then get a chair shot from Lynn. RVD crotches Lynn again and hits a sidekick. Lynn falls to the floor at this point, and this is where we sort of notice that he is out of it. He gets dumped over the railing, and RVD hits a leaping clothesline. Lynn then hits a dropkick and back into the ring. RVD with some stomps. Lynn with a roll-up that gets 2, tries a pile driver. RVD blocks it and turns it into an Alabama slam. Hits Rolling Thunder with a leg drop, gets a 2. Misses a follow-up. Lynn hits a Tornado DDT. RVD then turns that into a Northern Lights and gets a 2. RVD puts Lynn up top. Lynn hits a Sunset Powerbomb for a 2 count. A short arm clothesline, and Lynn goes and gets a table. RVD backdrops Lynn into the crowd, and then a springboard Van Daminator into the crowd. Lynn posts RVD on his way back, puts him up top, but RVD blocks and tosses Lynn to the floor through the announce table. RVD then drops him over the railings and hits the spinning leg drop. Back into the ring, gets a 2 count. RVD with a low drop kick and a backflip chair drop kick. Lynn tries to go for the tornado DDT to the floor, but RVD reverses it with a clothesline. And into the ring, hits a springboard leg drop, gets a 2. Lynn with some forearms, hits a sunset flip power bomb through a table on the outside. Back into the ring and gets a 2 count. RVD misses a Van Daminator. Lynn lobs the chair at Fonzie and then hits a stiff German suplex that gets a 2 count. A slam goes up top, only for RVD to hit him with a sidekick. Both men are up the top. Lynn slips and RVD gets crotched. Lynn hits a Van Liminator for a 2. Couple of pinning combos and rolling pins gets 2s. RVD hits the split moonsault that gets a 2. A snapmare and a spinning leg drop. Then goes up and hits the 5-star frog splash, but Jerry Lynn rolls through it and gets a 2 of his own. RVD hits the Van Daminator, the 5-star, and gets the win. This is a fucking amazing match when you know that Jerry Lynn was pretty much out of it for the majority of this match.
Yeah, he really showed the warrior spirit. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did not know where he was for the majority of that match, but yet he still manages to have an absolute rager with RVD.
26 minutes and 57 seconds of gold. Yes, it was.
And at this rate,
Um,
I'm predicting that these two will get feud of the year when we do our end of year award, because these matches have been fucking amazing.
Jerry Lynn's nickname is basically derivative of RVD's nickname at the time. They're running off the same. They ran off the same plane at that time, and it was like a mutual respect storyline. It was really cool. It was kind of like a Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson and ROH type of deal.
So we followed that match, which was awesome, by seeing the Dudleys saying they're going to take out Taz, and as such, beat down Chris Chetty. We then get Just Incredible and Sid. Well, it was meant to be Just Incredible versus Shane, but as we know, Shane's no longer wanted to be around the company. So Justin comes out, says he's beat up Sandman, broke the great Sasuke, and broke Shane's ankle. He is guiltier than OJ. So here comes the judge, Judge Jones, who brings out Sid. Sid straight in with a flapjack, big boot, and a chokeslam to the floor. Smashing to the railings, kicks, powerbomb attempt, but Jason breaks it up. This was a futile move because he gets powerbombed of his own. Justin then canes Sid, only to eat a massive chokeslam. Lance comes out to make the save, and he gets chokeslam too. Justin then powders the eyes as they try to double team Sid. They're about to take out Sid and put him through a table when we see Sabu. He takes a chair to Justin. He goes to put them on top of the table and go for a triple jump, but he moves and leaves Sid on his own, so Sid gets trushed through with a triple jump leg drop through the table. He then goes to lob a chair again and puts a security guy through a table with a second triple jump leg drop. Post this, Sid powerbombs Jeff Jones twice. So, as I said, it was a no contest. It was a nothing really thing that happened. But yeah, it was good to see Sid back. Obviously, we didn't think he was coming back after last month and him complaining about there not being any his bounce checks and things like that. Though Sabu turns up and does Sabu things, pops the crowd. Simple booking.
Yep. Yeah. It's good to see both Sid and Sabu, especially Sabu, like, oh, Sabu's not supposed to be here, that whole angle. It's always fun. And Sid is just, to me, he's a legend. I love him. He's a childhood hero of mine.
So we are now into the new main event of the evening, with Taz versus Bubba Ray in a Falls Count Anywhere FTW rules match. Taz hits a quick Brooklyn Brute and has a catch on Tazplex. Bubba then quickly blindsides him as he's distracted by Sign Guy Dudley, some clubs, elbows, and a big elbow drop. They brawl their way onto the ramp where Taz hits a drop toe hold and goes grabs a big old road sign and smashes it upside his head. Back to the outside, they brawl and then into the crowd as they brawl up to the back of the arena. And then they manage to go all the way out to the front, the main section of the arena, where obviously by the concession stands, and then back to the ring. At this point, Taz is fucking gushing blood. Bubba hits some back elbows, punches, and goes up top. Taz hits him in the nuts and hits a top rope Tazin arm Tazplex. At this point, Devon comes out. He hits a inverted DDT for 2. Bubba then covers himself in Taz's blood because, Bubba Dudley. Corner splash goes for a second, but Taz hits a stiff lariat. Bubba hits a side slam, which gets a 2. They go grab a table. Taz clubs, and for some weird and wonderful reason, Taz and Bubba double hip toss Ref Flanagan through the table. Bubba then hits a Bubba Bomb that gets a 2. The reverse 3D for a 2. Taz then hits a DDT to D-Bomb. The T-Bone Tazplex on Bubba through the table, puts on the Taz mission and gets the win. This was the arena-wide walking brawl for the evening. It was decent. I've noticed with these arena brawls we're having in the last few months, the sort of in the crowd bit to the back of the arena and back to the front is all a little bit same. It's just punch, kick, walk, punch, kick, walk. But it's purpose. And do you know what? When they were in the ring, this was a really fucking good match, and I do think that Bubba may actually be the top heel in the company now.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Taz's blood made it, amazing. Like, they say red equals green in the business, and like you could really take that away from this match. The blood spot happened in the crowd when Taz got thrown into the radio equipment and he was off camera. So who knows? Hard way, regular regular gigging job. Who knows? But the blood made the match, immediately worth watching if you're a big ECW fan. And Bubba and Taz makes the match worth watching to me. Those are two absolutely dynamic characters. And my favorite spot in the match was definitely the ref going through the table because it was like it didn't make any sense, but that was kind of the beauty of it. Like Bubba and Taz just kind of attack whoever's in the way, and the ref getting peeled off the turnbuckle through the table was that spot for me.
So as an overall show, this is definitely another one that's an easy 2 and a bit hours to watch. You've got 3 absolute clinics in RVD and Lynn, in Super Crazy and Taka, and in Guido and Tajiri. You've got your ECW hardcoreness in Bubba and Taz at the end, and the Dudleys, Spike and Balls earlier on in the show. And with Lance and Tommy as well, you've got hard-hitting, hardcore action. So yeah, I think there's enough of the wrestling and the hardcore to make this a definite watch for everyone. What are your overall thoughts on the show, Ryan?
Super solid show. It in lore, in legend, it should be remembered as the RBD and Jerry Lynn uh, half-hour match for the TV title because that's the legend that that match deserves. And this might have been the day that Jerry Lynn got the respect he deserved. Like everybody knew he was a good wrestler, but continuing a match halfway in for another 15 minutes after your face breaks and your brain is having a like you having like a near hemorrhage and your ear bleeding and everything, and it's just amazing. And the booking was great. You every who doesn't want to see like super crazy Tajiri, Guido, just all those guys, like those great cruiserweights go against each other. So great wrestling, great hardcore stuff. Exactly what you said. It's at least a 7 in my book just for the RVD and Jerry Lynn match. But I'll give it an 8.
See, I've gone with an 8 too because it is definitely one of those shows that it has the perfect level of balance between what makes ECW great with their in-ring style wrestling, where they are not afraid to give guys that can wrestle the platform to put on clinics, and the violence. It is, as I said, it is the perfect sort of balance of both, and very, very, very much worth your time. So we go into week four's TV, which is majority just highlights from the pay per view. We do get shortened highlights of Balls versus New Jack, where Balls wins after hitting the Nutcracker Suite. Your standard weapons match between these, but we do see New Jack doing a fucking ridiculous balcony dive.
Hmm.
And then we get
Yep.
a match between RVD and Skull Von Crush, where RVD wins with the 5-star frog splash. Again, this is another one of those matches which makes RVD looks great because Skull Von Crush is fucking shit. But he even looks decent when he's in the ring with RVD. But
Did you catch the crowd reaction in this match?
yeah, the crowd were there was a few fans that there were actually chanting for Skull Von Crush, which is a weird one. I don't get why people are liking him, but
That's kind of why I brought it up. This match fascinated the hell out of me because of Skull Von Crush. I was just like, these people are chanting for Skull Von Crush, and I found it hilarious because they kept switching it up. I think it was an ironic chant, like the way that people would chant for, like, I don't know, say you had like in WWE you had like the Undertaker versus Tiger Ali saying like, imagine like a "Let's Go Tiger" chant just for shits and giggles that they knew that Tiger Ali Singh was gonna lose. So it could have been an ironic chant like that. They were chanting Skullberg. The RVD fans were chanting Skull Von Douchebag. There was there was just a lot of funny like little things to take away from this match for me, and I grew a new fascination with Von Crush. Like he had these dark matches in '91 in WWF, and then he came as Vito, and he was there in 2006, 2007. He's had a really interesting career, and I suggest anybody who's interested in wrestling history, check out Skull Von Crush's career. You might be a little fascinated by it.
so we go into the last week of TV. It opens up with Balls and Axel telling us that if they don't win the belts tonight, next week or the next taping, they will face each other in a hardcore match. We then get a fucking another awesome TV match between RVD and Spike Dudley. RVD wins after hitting the 5-star, but again, this is the match where Spike comes out as a star. He held his own in the ring with RVD. He got his shit in. It looked good, and it didn't need Spike to go to the hardcore side of which you normally get with Spike matches. He takes a beating, he comes in with a chair, hits him a few times. There was no weapons in this. This was Spike just doing his best in ring work, and it was a great match between the two of them. We then get a glorified squash match between Lance Storm and Chris Chetti, where Lance wins with a top rope spin kick. And then in the main event, we get Axel and Balls versus the Dudleys. The Dudleys win with a powerbomb through a flaming thumbtack covered table. Yes, you heard me correctly. A flaming table covered in thumbtacks, pushing the boundaries. So we will talk about
My
the Dudley's match last, obviously being the big spectacle of the month, but that RVD and Spike match. Ryan, did you enjoy it as much as I did?
I love Spike Dudley like a lot more than most people, to be honest. And I really did because when I watch a match, I always look for like the selling points, like what's being sold. And RVD, either his back was seriously messed up or he was selling the crap out of it, and just for that fact alone, added to like the believability that he was struggling through this match, and the fact that he looked in pain and he was still doing like what he had to do, just offers that sort of respect factor that just adds a lot more to a match. And Spike Dudley, when I was growing up, was like the guy I most wanted to see because I was a little kid wearing tie dye shirts at that time, and like he was like this fun little dude, and everything that he did in the ring was just like, why would you put your body through this? And RVD and Spike have better chemistry than most people that Spike has chemistry with. So it was, yeah, it was really enjoyable.
So we have to discuss it. That fucking table shot at the end of that Dudley's match is a flaming thumbtack table too far.
Is it too far? For ECW, no. For WCW, of course. For WWE, of course. ECW fans are kind of expecting that, and the wrestling that I go to today, goes probably even further than a flaming thumbtack table. Um, and so I'm kind of desensitized to it, but this moment actually surprised me because like usually they don't go as hard as they do with the lighter fluid because the fire might like not be put out right away, and Bubba just like dumped a whole lighter fluid thing on it. So I was kind of worried for balls, and I also thought of the fact that the dude just had lighter fluid in his mouth like a minute before that, and I'm like, is his mouth gonna like catch fire? He's got lighter fluid in his mouth. So to me, that combination added to it. Like, I don't know if they should do this, but I was glad they did.
Yeah, it was definitely a spectacle, and I will imagine that it will be put into the beginning part of the hype package that we see at the beginning of each show. Um, though coming out of this, obviously, as Balls and Axel lost, it does mean that they will be going against each other at some point next month. So you will probably have that on TV next month. Um, so as the month as a whole, obviously a great month for RVD and in ring work. Great month for the lightweights and their in ring work. But I think we also have to commend the Dudleys for sort of carrying the show a little bit at times, especially obviously with how they dealt with the pay
Yeah.
per view, their matches that they've had on TV this month. It is definitely, the signs are good for the people in ECW, as long as we said in the news, the money sorts itself out.
hmm
So, was
I
there
don't
anything
know.
that you wanted
I
to
don't
add?
think it's from this specific show, or for the whole month.
For the whole month?
The whole month. It was really nice to see what Don Callis was doing because, as I said, huge fan of Don Callis, and I was never ECW wasn't really available to me at that time, so I like to see like what he was doing at that time, and it was as good as I thought it'd be. And for this whole month, the weird thing that I still don't really understand is where Beulah was. Like they broke Beulah's neck as like a kayfabe way, I think, because she was having a child.
She was going back to school, but she
Okay,
has said that she doesn't want to come back. So
okay,
that's why they haven't seen her. But because obviously it was an easy way or to get at Tommy and sort of have some fun was to sort of go, oh look, it's this new girl's your girlfriend.
yeah. Like, hey, Dawn Marie is like five different people. She's Tammy. She's Dawn Marie. She's Beulah. She had surgery. Did you catch Joey Styles say that she had surgery to look more like Beulah? She dyed her hair to look like
Yes.
hilarious. Like the things that they would just say to kind of put things over in kayfabe, they really kind of like embraced it. Like whatever, suspension of disbelief. People will just believe anything that we kind of put out there. And to me, I kind of think that's beautiful. That like even though it's a little bit like ridiculous, because in the reality of things, like come on, really, it's wrestling, and that's like Undertaker and Kane. If you're 30 years old, you know that there was no like fire and stuff burning each other's houses down or whatever. But that adds to the story, especially if like you're like a kid watching it. Like it's like, whoa, these guys are superhuman. And Dawn Marie had surgery to look like Beulah. That's like a big step. Wow, you know. So
So yeah,
that's it up.
it is a really, really good month. It's a decent month of TV and a decent pay per view, so you could do a lot worse than watch some ECW this month. So it leaves me to thank you, Mr. Swanson, for joining us again on ECW. Do you have anything that you wish to pimp, promote, or share with the greater good?
You can always follow me on Twitter. I have a fun Twitter feed that's about wrestling 99.5% of the time. I'll just spell that out for you if you want to find that out. Bucaman WWE, which I want to change to another company because I'm not really fond of WWE at the moment. But you can follow me there and see all the interesting like pictures and videos and stuff I post that will shock you. Um, and I'm writing a meatball article about the 25 best meatballs in Stanford, so I'm gonna post that on there within the next couple of weeks. I'm literally up to my 17th meatball.
Nice.
Yeah, 17 different restaurants I've tried so far.
See, I need a gig like that where I just need a reason to go around eating different food in different restaurants.
Yeah.
I'm missing a
Is there a
trick.
specific food that you love?
I love
If
pizza.
there's any specific food, hell yeah, make a pizza article. I'm down. I want to read that.
The pizzerias of Norwich.
The greatest in the world.
So, as we said earlier, WWF this month is not its usual format. There will just be a show that runs through TV results and what happened at the pay per view. But there will be a very special Owen Hart show, which will come out. Volume 1 is WCW. Obviously, we were here in Volume 2. And until next month, enjoy and speak to you soon.